and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. And welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop and a merry little Christmas.
Hopefully there's a snow day coming towards you. Ooh. A little low. I mean, it's been a while since we have gotten snow, like a decent snowfall.
Yeah, it's called spring, summer, and fall. Usually doesn't snow during this time.
The snow falls during Valentine's Day season, but does it snow at all during Christmas?
I mean, technically, February is still winter, so...
I mean, it is, but, don't get me wrong, as sweet as that is, I want a little white Christmas every once in a while. And there was a snowstorm, I think, last year, but, I don't want a storm. I just want, a nice little sprinkle, a nice little snow day. A little teaser into this book, they're talking about, snow magic, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, where's that? I remember that as a kid, it was so beautiful and magical, and then now, I'm like, where is it? Where's the snow magic? It usually comes with ice now.
Mm-hmm. So, who are you?
Yeah, hi. Actually, I just randomly walked into your residence. Hi.
Yeah, we have Shelby back for another little Christmas book.
This year, unlike last year, it was actually a pretty good book in my opinion. It's called Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrun. I liked it. It was really cute. I'm really excited to actually discuss this book, unlike last year's.
Yeah. Last year we did One Day in December. Check out that podcast. We roasted it. It was great. All right, so we're going to play a little game to get us started here.
Okay.
You are going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. And just try your best, and you may begin whenever you're ready.
Kiss Her Once for Me is about a girl named Ellie, or Elle, who essentially has a dysfunctional family and ends up one day, actually
in December.
One day, I almost said that. Christmas Eve, one year, crying in a bookstore, and ends up meeting this woman, Jack, and immediately falls in love with Jack. She's exciting, she's fun, and different for Elle, and it's about them having essentially a one-night stand, but then a year later, them reconnecting when Elle is unexpectedly engaged, in quotations, to Jack's brother, Andrew. They're spending Christmas together with Jack and Andrew's family, and how it all unravels from there.
Great job. I'm going to summarize it for anybody who hasn't heard of this book. 1 year ago, Ellie Oliver had her dream job in animation and a Christmas Eve meet-cute with a woman at a bookstore that led her to fall in love over a course of a single night. But after a betrayal the next morning and the loss of her job soon after, she found herself adrift, alone, and desperate for money. Working at a local coffee shop, she was just trying to get through the day until Andrew, the shop's landlord, proposes a shocking, drunken plan. A marriage of convenience that will give him his recent inheritance. They made a plan to spend the holiday together with his family at the cabin to keep up the ruse. But when Andrew introduced his new fiancé to his sister, Ellie is shocked to discover it's Jack, the mysterious woman she fell in love with over the course of one magical Christmas Eve the year before. Now Ellie must choose between the safety of a fake relationship and the risk of something real. Ooh. Also, I just want to put in here, we're probably going to talk about One Day in December because the main character's name is Jack in that one, and then the person
forgot.
name's Jack.
Oh my god, I actually forgot about that.
Yeah,
what a pull! What a great memory! I did. That book was so bad, I blocked it out of my mind.
Every time I would see Jack, I was like, no, it could be any other name. Any other name. I would have took Jax with an X or something, but all right, we're gonna hop into it. So, what is your favorite quote from this book?
Okay, so chapter 28 really stood out to me. It was what I kind of referenced in my head as the realization, the self-awareness, whatever you want to call it, that it's kind of that vibe throughout the entire chapter. And I really loved it. But specifically, there's one at the end of good old chapter 28. I can't get out of my mind. This is Ellie speaking. I let fear rule my entire life. I take a deep breath and try to hold it in my lungs. Try to press it into the aching hole inside me. The hole that can't be filled by another person, it can only be filled by me. And at that point in time, Ellie was heartbroken and wallowing in her misery, essentially. But I don't want to say that, because as someone who has mental health issues myself and who's battling against them, I can definitely understand, like, literally in this chapter, she is struggling to even shower. It's really relatable, unfortunately. It is. Yeah. When feeling crushing anxiety, guilt, whatever it may be, it's really easy, unfortunately, to not stop thinking about that and to, I don't want to say wallow, but to dive deeper into that.
Like suffocated by it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so in this instance, you know, she's struggling with the understanding that what had happened between her and Jack has ruined their relationship. They are not together. They're not going to be together at this point after what happened. When Meredith flies out to support her, okay, first of all, the found family in this kind of chapter that she realizes that she has with Meredith from college, and that Ari at the coffee shop that she worked at before she quit, and Ari like offers a very small bedroom closet space because Ellie is about to get evicted. Mm-hmm. Like, there's so many things about Ellie that I can completely relate to, and understanding that crushing feeling, and then with her found family guided to get to that realization. Mm-hmm. And then she's actually genuinely internally, her monologue is this gaping hole inside my chest that I'm expecting someone who I wanted to be Jack to be my everything, just to realize that, like, I actually need to be that for myself. It's such an empowering moment, especially after listening to that chapter, and unfortunately feeling like that it was super relatable.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about Ellie a lot because she's obviously the main character. She has a lot of qualities that I want to discuss. That quote is very important for her character development at the end, because they kind of give her tough love a little bit. Andrew and Jack, they're always like, you know, you quit the animation job and you are quitting at doing anything for yourself. And she's like, no, I got fired. It was good to show her and the readers that she took it in her own hands. Like, she's the one that stepped out to her mother and was like, hey, I want a boundary set on our relationship. She's the one that at the end went to Jack's open house. Like, she's the one that took those things in her life that changed it for the better. She's the one that took initiative on it. Mm-hmm. So it makes the delivery and the end just even better.
Agreed. I can't help but root for her. It's almost like rooting for the underdog, but instead it's rooting for someone that you kind of see yourself in. And that's, I can't help but honestly fall in love. There are times where, don't get me wrong, Ellie's driving me nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers. But anxiety and the panic, I found myself in that, and I couldn't help but just, God, it was, this book, I can't say enough how much I really loved this book, to be completely honest, and not in like necessarily like wow, the plot was so different, and like, I wasn't expecting, just like, really, the characters, you can't help but love them.
Yeah. I have 2 quotes. So this quote was, I believe Jack delivered this line. And she said, some of us fall in and out of love easily. Some of us don't experience romantic love at all. Some of us have to fight to let ourselves be vulnerable enough to fall in love. Some of us have to fight to let other people love us. I just really like that line. So one big thing about the story, which we'll talk about a ton, is that Ellie is a bisexual, demisexual person, which, don't even get me started, I love
visibility.
But I love this line because it shows, you know, love and sexuality is a spectrum, and it's fluid. I think that is a huge plot within, like a subplot within the story. I think this line just really supports how Jack feels and how she understands Ellie's point of view of it. My other one is from Ellie, and she says, I used to think letting more people in would mean having more people who would ultimately disappoint me, hurt me, walk out of my life. But having more people means there are more arms at the ready to catch me when I fall. And I fall a lot. I love that line so much. Because it's like very much the core of her spirit. And I think this is an extremely relatable line. You know, it's hard for her to let people in and trust people because, especially with her past relationships with her parents and stuff, she has a hard time accepting the advances and approaches of other people because she doesn't want that, I guess, responsibility of expecting them to want to stay and want to love her. And ultimately being disappointed, as she has multiple times, it's hard to keep wanting to do that when at the end that's what you're expecting. But she learns. So, what are some things that you liked about this book?
I really like the characters. I think they were fun, and I, again, like you mentioned about the visibility, I really love that not only do we have just like a stereotypical family that you would see in a lot of heteronormal books. There's a character in there who's non-binary. We really go into Ellie's sexuality and like not in depth, but like we touch on it. And I really like the fact that there's at one point in time that Ellie has to correct her mom and be like, I'm bisexual, even though if I'm with a man, I still like women too. Like, you know, that's important. And I like the fact that even though she doesn't stand up to her mom about like boundaries until the end, she stands up to her mom about her sexuality. So I really like that she's like not a complete doormat. I really like the progression of the characters too a bit. Ellie in the very beginning, she was a doormat for a lot of it. And being around this other family, she mentions that Jack takes up a lot of space. She's not afraid to, and I think that she slowly incorporates that as much as she can for, you know, someone who, again, deals with crippling anxiety. She takes up as much space as she's able to near the end of the book. And so I really like that progression that you see throughout the book. I like that there's like lighthearted moments, a lot of lighthearted moments too, where the family snowball fight. Like I really love the innocence of these different traditions that the Kim Prescotts, which is Jack and Andrew's family that they spend Christmas with, the different traditions that they take part in. Now, would it be awesome to also have like a ski chalet essentially for themselves? I mean, yeah, I'd probably host a lot of traditions in there as well. Yeah. And go wild, but they have specifically Christmas carol, like, you know, boozy Christmas caroling and cookie making and decorating and a snowball fight, picking out a Christmas tree as a family. Like, these are the innocent traditions that I think so many people want, desire, whatever it may be. And that's something that I personally also very much so want and don't have in my own life. That I was like, I can't help but fall in love with that ideal Christmas tradition.
I definitely agree. I think that family is such a turning point because you don't expect it. When you go in there, you're like, okay, Andrew's this rich, he kind of acts like a know-it-all a little bit. He's
you almost expect him to have a snobby British accent or something like that when he walks into the Roastlandia or something like that. Yeah. Nice turn of events that he doesn't, and he's like very down to earth.
Yeah, and then he comes from a Asian background, and I thought it was going to follow that stereotypical, like, crazy rich Asians where they're extremely strict and don't know how to have fun, and, you know, they're like, Christmas is for, you know, losers type deal.
Or even like, tree decorating but the help does it.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, I feel like it's going to be a little bit like that. But no, you get in there's a laminated schedule of everything they're going to do. Together. It was so cute. I absolutely love that. It was very Christmassy. I love Andrew's family so much. Like, I want to be part of that family so bad. Any other likes?
I like how exposed that the author makes Ellie's mental health. It's a little, maybe sometimes a little anxiety ridden because I'm just like, I shouldn't be relating to this as hard. This is a fictional character. And going through my own mental health journey, I was like, this is too relatable on too many different levels. Yeah. But at the same time, though, too, it is nice because then I didn't see myself in Ellie in any other way. I don't have any sort of like outstanding, notable skills that I've excelled at that's gotten me through somewhere, like that I'm super passionate about, like she is with art. I didn't feel like I could relate to her there. Never gotten fired from a job, so I anxiety of that. And so the only way I could really relate to her is like her mental health and how she views things through the anxiety lens. I shouldn't be feeling someone else's anxiety like this at 11 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I'm going to be feeling mine later. But I really do like the fact that the author really was super brutally honest, and especially when Ellie would spiral. I know a bit about spiraling, and so I like that you kind of saw that progression because you're like, that's real. It's not just like zero. It's not always 0 to 100 in 2 nanoseconds. It's small little things that become a snowball.
Yeah.
And then that snowball becomes an avalanche. And you can't help but look at it. It might happen in a very quick progression. But Ellie sees that, experiences it, and is like, what am I supposed to do with my life? I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you see her having that kind of, I don't want to say existential crisis, but like that life crisis that she does have, where she's like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I worked at a job that I hated because I got fired from my dream job. What am I supposed to do with myself now?
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I really did. I don't want to like a crisis. I want to prevent one personally, but seeing her be an emotional wreck was really refreshing, because sometimes I feel like one day in December when they were just like emotional wrecks because a lack of communication, this one felt a lot more realistic and almost unavoidable, because you saw where the author made it very apparent that there was very real reasons behind why, and she fed into them too much. But there are very real reasons. Was really nice.
Yeah.
Because it's out of her control.
Her anxiety roots from the fact that she's afraid to fail.
Yes.
And that turn point of being afraid to fail means she's afraid to try. Because in the end, in her eyes, she's just going to fail at it no matter what. Having that rooted in there, being the main cause of her anxiety, I feel like a lot of people can relate to. Especially in this generation. With the expectations being so high all the time, it is setting you up for failure. But it's showing that this book, trying doesn't mean that you're gonna fail. It just means that you attempted it. If you do fail, then you do fail. Doesn't mean you can't try again.
Right.
That's how it is with Ellie and her artwork. You know, she quote unquote got fired. We don't know the extent of what exactly happened, but you know, she never stopped doing art. She still did her web comic, which in turn got her a new deal or new book deal, I think, at the end.
I would say new prospect of something else. Yeah.
So just because one thing doesn't work out doesn't mean that other things aren't going to come out of it, which is really hard when you're in this sense of like, I failed, nothing I do matters, but it does matter. It might take some time, it might take a new perspective, but it does matter. That is one of my likes as well, is that Ellie is so extremely relatable. I think anybody at any point can relate to her. Love the fact that she was a demi-bi female main character. Love that so much. I love the inclusion of the asexual spectrum, if no one knows, but there's just so very little representation out there. So when there is something, you know, I'm eating it up. I am devouring it.
Yes. And the fact that she also like described it too, like what she meant. It wasn't just like I'm this and then doesn't explain it any further. She says I'm like demi-ace, and she goes into what that means. Yeah. It's specifically when her and Jack have their one night together, she explains. She's like, I can't be with you physically unless I feel like I can trust you. Again, I really like that. They dive deep into that's part of the reason why it was so crushing when her and Jack didn't work out the first time. Yeah. I loved it.
So like I will say I absolutely do love the representation. I will say I have a love-hate relationship with it because her being demi-bi is awesome. I speak on it because I am also demi. So I think it's great representation, but it's not necessarily the norm. I think this is just a one in a billion, one-off chance that this happened to this character. But would a demi person have a one-night stand with someone? Highly unlikely. Extremely unlikely. I'm not saying that it's impossible, it's just unlikely. But I do like the internal struggles that Ellie has. You know, she has the alarm bells that go off. She says that she has an unexpected connection with Jack.
Right. Demi version of like falling in love at first sight almost, but instead it's just like within one day. Yeah, that makes sense. It absolutely does. I think part of it too is that like that's part of the reason why the author also honed in on Ellie's emotional vulnerability, because she's like, when is this ever gonna happen? She's like, emotional vulnerability, Ellie, here, morning time, spend all day, got it.
Yeah, exactly. So the one night stand I was very surprised about after I found out about Ellie being demi. I was like, oh, surprising. I do have a missed opportunity that I think, as somebody with this kind of background, I guess you would say, how I would have delivered the book if I wanted a demisexual main character. I loved the mention of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Dude, yes. I hit pause so fast when I heard that. I was like, what? And also that's why she's so relatable,
the
bro.
Same week, too, that the trailers dropped, too.
Dude, the trailer dropped. We just did The Dawn of Yang Chen that came out in November. Mm-hmm. I started rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and she mentioned that, and I was like, fanning myself. I was like, dude. No, I absolutely loved, they could have talked about it a little bit more, but I get it. It's those little things that make her so relatable. Watching her favorite show, her listening to her favorite music, there's a lot of modern day stuff in here. A lot of music, specifically. It was a very nice touch. My last thing is, I love the queer women communication thing, as they called it.
Yeah.
Ellie and Jack, anytime they were alone, Jack's like, no, we're not doing what the straights do, okay? We're gonna talk about it.
We're gonna talk about this like real lesbians. Yeah. I love it.
And she just straight up is like, okay, we're talking about it. What's going on? Talk to me. And it was just so refreshing. I mean, of course there is miscommunication, a very hard thing to avoid in a book. You gotta have a tiny bit of it because it's realistic. Mm-hmm. Miscommunication is everywhere, all the time. To take it completely out of a book is... It's one, not realistic, and two, extremely hard to make those plot points. But this one, it does miscommunication, and then it writes itself, which is just, it's great. I love it.
Right, it doesn't take place over a 10-year relationship.
Don't get me started.
Sorry, that was a One Day in December reference. Sorry, friends.
So we've been raving about this book, but I have to ask, what are some things that you did not like about this book?
As great as the family traditions were, I really was craving more insight into the family and the fact that, like, you got your cookie cutter family with their fun traditions, and then there's nothing about them, like, about their background. Like, obviously, the Mrs. Kim Prescott and Mr. Kim Prescott, Alan, they eventually in the book and near the end are going through a divorce. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that you kind of don't see, for someone that has a fake not fake family, but
those are real.
they're real. That's a real family. But for someone that's going into a fake engagement, or not fake, I guess, a real engagement.
It's a real engagement with a fake couple.
Yes. She's saying that she's falling in love with this family, but then there's hardly anything about the family. I don't know anything. For Dylan being the Jack's best friend, don't hear anything about him. We hardly know them. Sorry, I'm so sorry. No, because Andrew, we understand a little bit that Andrew is close with his sister, and as well as he's like really feeling pressured by his dad to do the best, be the golden boy, right? Mm-hmm. We don't see anything outside of that. His the pressure he's under, and then the goofy, silly, charming trust fund kid, essentially. Yeah. We see those only two sides of him. We don't see anything else. Another thing, too, for being a fake couple, Andrew does absolutely nothing to make it seem like they're a passing couple. Does nothing. Plant some kisses, but when you're with your ex-partner and your new partner, and then yet do absolutely nothing outside of maybe a single kiss or two to dissuade any ideas that this is fake or too rushed or something like that around your ex-partner and family. What are you doing? You know what I mean? I understand that Andrew has a past with Dylan, and Dylan still has feelings for Andrew, but at the same time, though, too, if you have feelings for someone that you were with in the past, but you have a fiancé, fake or not, you have to still be there for your fiancé, and there's none of that.
I think Andrew's perspective is maybe he was trying to be respectful of Ellie because she is demisexual. It's really hard to have any physical touches and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was just respecting her boundaries in that standpoint, but being there emotionally, there was a lot of scenes where they weren't together at all. She was with Jack most of the time, right? Which they definitely called him out. They'd be like, your fiance, why are you not with her, or reasons like that. They would call him out on it, but he was so infatuated by Dylan that he was like, wait, I have a fiance?
Pretty much.
I mean, it was over a drunken conversation that lasted probably it was maybe not even a week ago. So there was probably moments where he just forgot.
And that's wild to me because Andrew has to be brilliant, right? Like to have gone to Yale, to have or maybe not because I don't know what Daddy's money pays off.
He did say that she was like, "You went to Yale, right?" He's like, "I mean, yeah, but I didn't really study."
Right.
He's just stupid.
I guess so. I
He's
guess
just dumb.
I guess so. The author did really well on just painting him as a bro. Really.
A frat boy.
Yes. As a bro's bro. I don't understand because especially when Dylan is tells Jack, doesn't even ask Jack, tells Jack, you and Ellie are gonna be together because you mainly ski on the bunny hills anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And Jack even mentions why doesn't she go with Andrew? And Dylan go, you mainly stay on the small ski hills and you're better at teaching than Andrew is. Mm-hmm. And it's why nobody else in the family chimed up hey, you've been taking up all of Andrew's time at least. What?
I don't understand how they didn't notice Dylan and Andrew.
Right. It really is absurdly obvious. Absurdly.
Yeah. I knew it instantly. Instantly, as soon as Dylan was introduced, I was like, oh, Andrew and Dylan were a thing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's absolutely no discretion.
Yeah.
And so that drove me nuts. Absolutely nuts. What also drove me nuts is that we don't know anything about Ellie's past relationship, really, with her college girlfriend. We do know that Ellie's college girlfriend, I forget her name, to be completely honest, because she's mentioned so briefly.
Yeah.
She, I guess that her college girlfriend didn't believe in her artwork, but at the same time, though, if you're going to be mentioning a character who feeds into or who fuels your anxiety towards feeling imperfect or not good enough, give some reasoning behind that. Yeah. And so sometimes when the author mentions the college girlfriend, it almost is who? Why even mention her at all, to be completely honest?
I agree with that, yeah. The characters, it feels like swimming in a kiddie pool with floaties on.
Yes.
It's fun, you got your floaties on, you're chilling, but there's no risk of seeing deeper underneath the surface. They're all surface level. There's a little duck floating around on top of the surface, but there's nothing attached to it. I don't see the history of the characters, the in-depth. Obviously, Ellie we get the most because she's the main character.
Right.
Jack is the second, I believe. Everybody else is there's nothing. Not even Paul Hollywood, okay? What's his origin story?
What is Paul? Okay, yeah, but did they even go into why he's named Paul Hollywood?
I think they did very, very briefly. Very briefly. A sentence or two.
That dog deserved more screen time, to be completely honest.
Some of my dislikes. So I feel like the conversations felt a little forced at some times. They didn't really flow very well. And I don't know. I think that was just something I noticed. It was just very we need to talk about this because we need to talk about this at this point in the book and to move the plot forward. Right. They didn't naturally flow up into it. Mm-hmm. The amount of time that they said quarter moon smile, wow, was a lot. Of Jack's smile being a quarter moon.
And the little fish hook scar that she has or something, the scar that she has.
I feel like there was so many other ways you could have described that smile, or say a couple times, but then at that point we know. Mm-hmm. Maybe scatter it in throughout, but every time she smiled, she mentioned a quarter moon smile, and I was like, okay. Going back to the characters for a second, my least favorite is definitely the dad. The dad was very flat, and I feel like he was just the usual suspect for that character dynamic. He was cheating on him with a younger woman. He was never there. He was off doing business. I feel like with Andrew and Jack, their dad should be a huge force of their rebelliousness. We get a little bit of the grandpa changing the will, but I wanted to see more of the dad because when he wasn't there, I was like, okay, that's driving the force of Catherine forcing people to stay together because her husband's never there, but yet we don't really see anything in depth with the dad. I was really when he finally showed up, I was like, okay, finally we'll see some real maybe aggressiveness or very strict behavior, something. He was never mentioned except for the very end. And I was like, this is very lame.
Yeah, there was only a paragraph where Ellie was describing because he did show up. He started nagging at her appearance, who she was, and then goes into a full paragraph of what else he said without fully going into detail. and how Jack and Andrew handled that. Especially because when Ellie wakes up that morning, when Alan, the dad, actually arrived, Jack was having a kind of a big reaction, physical reaction, I should say, because she was throwing snowballs against her Airstream. For me to feel like I want to throw something against something else, that's kind of a big deal, at least to me, to not have any background on that. Like, it just doesn't feel, if anything, he feels like a more of just like an absent dad. And that's just it. And I'm not gonna lie, it's just kind of like, I don't understand.
It's frustrating. My last thing is, so this takes place in Portland.
Yes.
Obviously there's snow there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I honestly couldn't tell because she never mentioned snow once. Just kidding. She mentions it like every other page. The amount of time that snow is mentioned, I totally get it. I will say I totally get it. But as somebody that grew up in the South and never had snow, I guess I just don't understand the importance of, like you had said earlier, of, you know, snow on Christmas and like having snow for a magical, wonderful time. I'm not that kind of person. I actually prefer if there's no snow ever in the entire world. But the way that they incorporated snow into every aspect of this, I was just like, okay, I get it, but also can we pull back a little bit? I don't need you to talk about snow every 5 minutes, and the magic of it.
Was another character, really.
Honestly, was the main character. She was giving main character energy.
Frosty Snowman?
In the aspects of talking about snow, we talk about Jack Frost.
Oh yeah, Jack Frost, that's right. He was there. Actually, fun fact, this story was about him.
He is a demi-bi character. He is the main character.
The moment, the myth, the legend.
Oh god. So I have to ask, I was looking at some reviews and they were saying that this book was extremely predictable. Would you agree with that statement?
Kind of, but in the same sense of like almost every Christmas romance, it's like a Hallmark movie. You might not know how exactly like the specific plot points that get there are, but like you understand that there's going to be, you know, once you understand that Jack is Andrew's sister, you're going to automatically understand that there's going to be tension. They're probably going to kiss at least once, right? And yeah, you know, once you kind of realize that Andrew, and I agree that Andrew is maybe giving her some like space, but even he could have even just like spent a little bit more time with her, if not like obviously like making moves on her, of course, respecting her boundaries. Ellie and Jack, and of course close proximity, huge trope right now. To an extent there is, but it's kind of like any other Hallmark Christmas book movie. I'm not disappointed by it. Do I wish that there was maybe at some event where like she might have like explored, they were becoming friends and maybe she was learning to trust him and maybe there was some feelings there, so it was a little bit more complicated. Do I wish a curveball like that was thrown? Yeah, but the two main characters are gonna end up together. There's no way around it. But I think there were a few like delightful curveballs in there that I really appreciated. Personally, I didn't predict Dylan and Andrew's relationship. When Andrew dropped that little nugget, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't expect the family to be as like welcoming and as loving. Which I genuinely, because I had the same idea, is that they were going to be like that rich family that almost like Gilmore Girls.
The grandparents.
Yes. That I kind of just expected that a little bit more, that kind of attitude. So I was pleasantly surprised with that. So I didn't think it was a total predictability, but if you're going into this expecting a curveball of some sort, I don't know why you're reading a Christmas book then. I've never read a Christmas or seen a Christmas movie, read a Christmas-based book where the ending was not at all what I expected. How the ending happened, how they ended up together wasn't what I expected, which I did like. But you knew going into this that they were going to end up together.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
Me?
Yeah, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think books are really hard to get an original idea, especially without foreshadowing. Like, if you don't have foreshadowing in your book, should be a little predictable. Not saying that plot points or plot twists, those could be kept hidden, but your book's got to be a little predictable for people to follow along, because if it's like out of left field, then your characters and your people that are reading are going to be like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
Ellie and Dylan end up together.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think with this book specifically, Jack being introduced so early gave it away that it was obviously going to be Andrew's sister, and that she was going to come in. Dylan and Andrew, I picked up right when Andrew was like, is Dylan ... coming? And I was like, okay, so obviously they were together. The family definitely got me. I was very surprised, especially with like the grandmas being like drunk and high. I was like, I was like, yes. So yeah, there was a lot of like random one-offs that I was pleasantly surprised about, but it's a holiday book. It's going to be following the same outlines. Going back to what you were saying about the tropes, wow, did she hit all of them? Literally all of them.
She did. Forced proximity.
One bed.
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of an enemies to lovers for like a second. Like Dylan and Andrew kind of gave me like a little bit of enemies to lovers.
I would almost say the same for Ellie and Jack, though, but it was more like a miscommunication to almost like misunderstanding to lovers, which I kind of like.
I mean, we got found family.
Yes.
It hits all the trope, which I know isn't like awful, but it could be a little daunting when you're trying to like get through this book and you're like, oh, there's another one.
Yeah, you're bookmarking every new trope, and it's probably like at least one every 20 pages.
Yeah.
And this is a 200-page book.
And then another thing that you mentioned, a little plot point or a plot twist, her falling in love with Andrew. So that was the one thing I didn't love, because her, again, being Demi, I could see myself for just a second before Jack got there that I could fall in love with Andrew. Just because you're demisexual doesn't mean the second you trust someone, you fall in love with them.
Yeah.
It kind of gives that point for her where it's like, okay, now that she trusts Andrew, they're in love. No, I didn't love that. You can open up your boundaries and you can learn to trust someone without having to feel that connection. And I was really nervous for a second there that she was going to fall in love with both of them and start having feelings for both of them. And I was just going to be like, no, that's not how that works, honey. I'm glad that didn't end up happening. And Andrew became such a good friend for her.
See, I didn't see that. That was something that I did see. I did hear that, like how they like their interaction. But the thing is, though, she said in that moment that she came to see, by that point when everything had happened, she had come to see Andrew as a friend, but they spent no time together at all. Surface level. And that's what I was really hoping. I wanted a curveball, maybe that's what it would have been. It is just like her developing a relationship of some sort, like a friendship of some sort. With Andrew to make this whole complicated engagement more believable, right? I wanted to see that because Andrew has this fake engagement because his grandfather had passed away recently and had tied a $2 million trust in Andrew's name to the fact that he needs to be married in order to do it. He, as an Andrew, wants to hurry up and get married because Jack was supposed to receive $1 million out of that $2 million. They were supposed to split it. Grandfather wrote out Jack as soon as Jack dropped out of college, is now trying to open a bakery however many years later on her own without assistance. And Andrew's under the assumption that Jack doesn't know that she was written out of the will. In this sense, I would have loved to have seen a relationship, platonic specifically, of course, but a relationship where she's maybe is falling in love with Kim Prescott's even more, and really opening herself up to a friendship in this fake relationship with Andrew to then complicate the plot a little bit more in the sense of she now feels some sort of loyalty to her friendship with Andrew. That's something that I was really missing.
I mean, it was kind of there. That's why she never told Jack what was going on, because she didn't want to betray Andrew.
I mean, I think it was more so she didn't want to betray the goodwill that Andrew, in the reason why Andrew was doing this, not necessarily to Andrew himself. And that's what I wanted to see, that little bit more of a moral dilemma towards Andrew, not just why Andrew's doing this. He's protecting his sister, and that's why, and that's great, and that's noble. But what about a friendship? What about a relationship? And I think that curveball would have been really good to see a friendship blossom in the book too. Yeah. If we could have made this book a little bit longer and maybe dove into some relationship building between these two, I think it would have made it a little bit more unpredictable. And maybe the end result of them blowing up, not just like a page or two, but like a really full on, like a moral dilemma, not only on Ellie's side.
I guess to be devil's advocate, I think it's just the lack of time. The pressure of time as well is that they were so focused on getting the money first and then figuring everything else out later. Yeah. And so they literally had like a week before they had to go to, maybe less, to get from the bar where they signed the thing to the family's house. So there was just a lack of time. And then the relationship between Jack and Ellie took over everything else. That was placed on the back burner. I think it was definitely needed to have that, but I think it was just placed on the back burner. The author cared more about the relationship than the behind the scenes stuff. I definitely think there should have been more scenes with Andrew, but in the end, I'm glad that he came and like saw her, because you would think, oh, he's done, it didn't work out, I'm with Dylan now, so I'm just gonna forget that she exists and move on. He did come and see her and give her the letter about the bakery and stuff. I just wish she would have dived a little bit more than just surface level with the characters.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, is that like the fact that she sees herself falling in love with, I think a lot of people, when see, especially in this weird predicament that they have put themselves in, she can look around and be like, if I have to fake being here for 12 months or being in a genuine marriage for 12 months, I think I could eventually could fall in love with this, but it was so not based in anything concrete. It wasn't like that they had some sort of repertoire beforehand when he would come to Roselandia, the coffee shop that Ellie worked in, and struck up a friendship of any sort. Yeah. That was all very sudden, all very out of the blue, and her having a comment like that so early in the book, if anything, really set me up, at least, for disappointment for their relationship in general. Or it felt like it was just
forced a little.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that it's not possible. Again, she might be Demi doesn't mean every Demi feels the same way. These are her feelings, that's okay. But it was a little off-putting. So, who in this book is your favorite character?
Okay, Mima and Lovey. Can't say enough. Not gonna lie. Don't get me wrong. Main character's great. I want to be either Mima or Lovey. I don't care which one, okay? But I want
How about
to
you be Mima, I'll be Lovey.
Please. Oh my goodness. Wait, we're gonna have to marry the same man at some point in time, or the same person at some point in time.
True. That's okay. He dies.
He's just a small plot point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be either Mima or Lovey. They are my favorite characters. Lovey is the one who is most likely to be drunk. And I love the fact that she says that, and would just be like, I need wine. And then, or the fact that she's randomly described as drinking one bottle of wine that quickly turns into 3. I'm sorry. Yes, undertones of alcoholism there, but she's fun. It's one of the two that know about the relationship between Jack and Ellie, and is so really nonchalant about, really is I get it, I understand the reason.
She's also bi.
Yeah, so it's just kind of why not?
Yeah.
I love them. I want to be them when I am their age. Yeah. They make the family dynamic.
When Ellie, everything gets revealed, and she's like, I'm making a comic about what's happening right now. It was called The Arrangement, I think. Yeah. And they all find out about it, and they all get mad because Ellie's writing a story about them and how she's tricking them, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And one of the grandmas is just like, I need a joint. Yes. In the middle of it, and then leaves and goes.
Yes. Or the fact that when they're making cookies, they all get stoned. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, but what? That's such a vibe. It's such a vibe. Hey, guys, let's spend Christmas. Lovey's going to bring the alcohol. I'll bring the THC, and we're just going to have a good old time. Yeah. It's literally the most relaxed.
You know that when they were young, they were partying it up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact that, again, they married the same man and one ended up divorcing. Of course, the other is a widower. Mm-hmm. And are best friends. Yeah. I'm sorry, what? Yeah. I want to know. I'm just mentioning this now. Missed opportunity. I know we're not there yet, but that's a missed opportunity. I want to know how they became friends.
Yeah.
That was the trope that we were missing. I demand retribution for that.
Absolutely.
Who's your favorite character?
Oh, me?
Oh, you, as if you're not going to answer this question.
I know we just bashed on him, but I really did like Andrew. Honestly, I never expected to like a man in a sapphic love story, but here we are! I will say I did love Ellie. I think she was such a relatable character. She was a great character. Jack was okay. She was fine. But Andrew, he was so generous, and, you know, he cared deeply about his sister and his family. He was funny. He was kind. He was just a really good guy. And of course, he was very surface level. I wish there was more. I wish there was more in-depth stuff on him. I would have loved, a couple conversations with him. Just more of him. I rooted for him. I wanted this relationship to actually happen because I wanted him to get that money, and I wanted them to have this year-long engagement and to help his sister. I wanted him to actually do it. Normally I was like, what a sleazy guy. He's just in it for the money. But he wasn't. He was in it for his sister's money.
Right.
To give it to her. Yeah, he was just generally a good guy, and I think in this standpoint, you gotta have a good guy to root for him.
I agree. After knowing Ellie's situation, he genuinely wanted to help her out. I thought was really endearing. The fact that that's why he offered the fake engagement to her, because he understood. She got turned down for the assistant manager position. She's going to get evicted, and he heard all of that and still wanted to help her out. I thought that was so charming.
Yeah. So just want to take a second here to shout out the Patreon subscribers.
Alrighty. So a huge shout out to Nick W., Bree P., Mike T., Jack J., Patrick C., Emily P., Janet P., Tim O., Ashley A., and Lulu. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. You guys are seriously so awesome.
Thank you guys so much. It means the absolute world to me. I enjoy doing this, so I'm glad that a couple people listening to it. It's pretty cool. If you guys want to be part of the Patreon shout out, head over to Patreon and subscribe today. I want to talk about the first Christmas that we spend with Ellie and Jack, which is scattered throughout the book. It's called a webcomic, which I have a missed opportunity, which we'll talk about in a second, but you get to follow along as Jack and Ellie meet for the first time and spend their first day together as well as their first night. And the next morning, we find out that Jack actually married and has a wife.
That was a big curveball. I was not expecting that.
I was one, because they never showed why they broke up and why they never stayed together until about halfway, a little bit more than halfway through the book. Jack's like, why'd you leave? Ask you to stay and have another day together. And Ellie's like, bro, your wife came to the door. Yes, Ellie could have asked and been like, do you have somebody in your life? But at the same time, Jack was a stranger. Jack was giving her this trust that she broke.
Right.
Ellie probably felt used, disrespectful towards the wife. She believed that at the time it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing happening to her, and it just got ripped from her that morning. And of course she ran away, and of course she never said anything again, because yes, she felt strongly for Jack, but she thought she was cheating. So she was like, I ain't gonna come back for this.
And the fact that on top of it, the wife even said, I'll come back later. Was Jack expecting Ellie to be there when the wife returned? You know what I mean? Like, if she was going to ask Ellie to stay another day, what was she going to do when her and her wife had plans?
Yeah.
What? Because it was a planned meeting, and the wife literally said, like, I just thought I'd show up early.
Yeah.
What was Jack expecting? What? What was Jack expecting? To be completely honest, like, how was she going to maneuver that?
Right. A little background, Jack and her wife Claire were in a relationship. Claire was polyamorous and wanted Jack to go out and have a one-night stand so that way she could understand how Claire wants to be in a polyamorous relationship and see other people. And Jack was like, I'm not here for that. So that's how Ellie and Jack had their one-night stand. I feel so bad. It was kind of a weak driving force for the narrative, kind of a fallback, because she was like, what if I give her a wife as a surprise? I don't know, it just wasn't supportive, and I don't know if I loved it.
I didn't like the way that they casted polyamory as, like, almost like I want to see other people as in, like, why don't you go have a one-night stand so you understand polyamory, right?
Yeah.
And, like, I don't like that, because then that's not true to polyamory. I'm personally monogamous, but I have friends who are polyamorous and who are in healthy good polyamorous relationships and long-term polyamorous relationships. And so, like, to me, it doesn't cast Polly in a good light, because then it casts almost like Claire in a negative, almost like a toxic type standpoint, when it's just like the fact that Claire was pushing her one night stand with someone else outside their marriage. Like you said, it was a weak driving force. It cast polyamory in a stereotypical negative limelight, and I didn't like that. Mm-hmm. I could have understood if maybe, like, the surprise of it is if they were separating. Yeah. I could understand that, where, like, suddenly the wife was just like, I'm the wife, I wasn't expecting you to be here. What? Yeah. And so, like, I could understand if they were, like, separated in the process of a divorce, and that kind of came up, and maybe the wife was flustered and was like, I'll leave. You know what? It's okay. Yeah. Don't say anything. Mm-hmm. That would have made more sense to me than, like, the whole polyamory trope.
Like you said, like, they were going through a divorce, but it was a mutual decision. Maybe they just grew apart, and they respectively are like, hey, we're going to see other people while we're filing our divorce, and, you know.
They're very amicable about it, almost.
Yeah, like, I would much rather have that than what you had said. So,
if you're trying to provide visibility in this aspect, you cast visibility, the wrong type of visibility, really. Yeah. Especially because you don't go into any background of Claire outside of she's polyamorous and wanted to be poly, and Jack did not.
Yeah. So who would you say is your favorite relationship?
I'm sorry, Mima and Lovey. That's the only relationship. Sorry, as I know that this revolves around Ellie and Jack. That's the only relationship that I feel I was jaded about. Mm-hmm. I want more background. I've already went into depth. I want retribution, and that is the one that that's the one I want. I went on a rant about Ellie and Andrew. You know what? I want to know. That's the book that I think would have some awesome, unexpected plot twists. You have a toxic man, obviously, and somehow these two, ex-wife and widow, become best friends and end up wanting to spend Christmas together? Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are so many missed opportunities in there. Like, there's so much that could have been drawn out. And it seems like Ellie was close to them. Out of everybody, she talked to them the most. I don't see a reason why there couldn't be more information. This book is long. You could have cut out some other stuff and put that in. But right. I said that my favorite was Ellie with Meredith/Ari in different aspects.
Yes.
I loved the support system that they had. You know, we had Ari at the beginning, who was her co-worker, which she was also trans, so that was a good representation of Ari.
Trans and polyamorous in a much better light, but again, they didn't explore it, but yes, visibility.
Exactly. So they were introduced at the beginning, and then they were obviously there at the end when they offered a home for Ellie. Mm-hmm. And then Meredith is scattered throughout as well. You get a little bit of information on her. You know, she's in law school. She failed her bar exam, but didn't tell Ellie because Ellie's got enough going on. But I did love their support system. How she had the phone call at like 5 a.m. with Meredith in the laundry room. Spends over $1,000 on a plane ticket to come and spend Christmas with her. I just love the support system.
Oh, absolutely. I just wish that there was more.
Yeah. So the ending, we have Ellie talking to her mom. We have her getting her new job, working with the comic. We have Andrew coming to say hi. Mm-hmm. We have the butch oven, the bridge scene at the end. What were your thoughts on the ending? Did you like the ending? Do you think it solidified and answered all your questions?
I have mixed feelings about the ending. Overall, I like the ending. It was an ending. It was the ending you expected, that they ended up together. Full circle, where she realizes that, like, she's feeding into herself a little too much, into her negative self-talk a little too much, and she is coming full circle into her own as someone who wants to, like I said before, take up more space. Yeah. She does want to be there. She wants to be present. She wants to be loved, and she wants to give love in return, and she's finding that in herself and with the people who she is platonically in relationships with. She wants to be there more for Meredith. She was there for Ari. She's going out with the housemates too, the relationships that Ari's in. She's going out with them, doing more. She's wanting to live her life. And so I like that a lot. And when she does go to the eventual opening of the Butch Oven, which is Jack's bakery, going to that soft opening and pleasantly surprised at the fact that that's not where the relationship initiated and started from. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that literally right there, Jack was like, no, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. She knows herself well enough to say, like, in that moment, I don't think I can trust you again. She knows herself well enough. And I like that. It wasn't the whole, like, maybe or, like, no answer answer at all that you would have expected. It was what changed it was the gift. Now, I don't think the gift is a big enough reason to, like, initiate, someone leaving their own soft launch for their bakery and being like, hey, actually, like, this painting made me realize, like, I don't feel like that was enough to mend any broken trust. I do like the fact that Jack does acknowledge that she has a lot of unresolved issues from her relationship with her families, her parents getting a divorce, her unresolved issues with her past ex-wife, like, all that kind of stuff. She acknowledges that, which is appreciated, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel like it was enough of a driving force to receive a painting to mend broken trust. Maybe for Jack, it would have, like, dissuaded, and maybe it would have taken some additional time, or maybe, like, a happenstance, like, Ellie's living her best life, and that's when she runs into Jack, and maybe Jack noticed the change and been like, honest game, what have you been doing? Like, you seem different.
Yeah.
And Jack wanting to explore this newer love for her life.
I think for the gift, if it was supposed to be so altering that she'll go from I can't to I want to, it should have been filled with the stuff that they did on the first day. You know, she has the painting of the bakery right when she saw it, before it was, the butch oven. Put the book in there too, that they both reach for at the same time. Put maybe the mittens that you wore, the blue scarf that she was wearing on the bridge. Put that in the bag too. Put everything that reminds you of that first day in there, to have all of it flood back into Jack and being like, okay, this is what I fell in love with. This is who Ellie is and who I wanted. Besides just a painting of her bakery.
Yeah.
Like, before it was her bakery.
Because that's the realization Jack has. You have such an artist eye for detail.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Does that...
You know that.
Right. Is that the only thing you fell in love with?
Yeah.
There should have been more, or it should have been approached differently.
Yeah. Like, I agree that I would have loved to see her, like, maybe she just walks by the butch oven one day and is like, wait a second, the butch oven, and walks in and there's Jack. I would even take, like, a year later.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need a couple months. I could take a year. Give her plenty of time to become who she is, both of them.
Right.
And give them time to form into themselves, then go and see that everything's different. The ending, like you said, is an ending. I do say there is one thing that I hated in the ending, and that was the love and confession in front of everybody, all of her friends and family. I did not like that part. I was waiting for them to slow clap. Like,
oh, really? Like,
yeah.
Congratulations on that performance?
Yeah, I was like, I was waiting for it. She ran away before it happened. I'm sure it did. I know it sounds like we're bashing on this book. I really liked this book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. But...
No, I think it's with this, though, like, because you love it so much, you want to see more.
Yeah.
It's a difference between bashing it because you hate it and, like, having a desire to see more because you fell in love with what was there already, that you wanted more. And that's where all this is coming from, for sure.
Yeah, if you want to hear us actually bash a book, go listen to One Day in December. But, okay, so we're going to play a little game. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous for this game, not going to lie.
So we are going to play Christmas Scattergories. So anybody who hasn't played Scattergories before, you get a list of prompts, and we will roll for a letter, and we have to fill out the prompts with that letter in about, let's put a minute and a half on the clock. Just for the sake of the listeners, we will pick up at the end where we had already filled it out, so you're not just sitting here for a minute and a half while we frantically start to fill out these themes. So we are going to roll for our letter, and then we'll meet you at the end. So our letter is S. So we're back! Yay!
Yay!
All right, now for the points, we are going to go ahead and list off our things. If we have the same answer, then we don't get a point. But if we have different answers than each other, then we get a point.
Mm-hmm.
These are all obviously Christmas themes. So our first one is Christmas song.
Silent Night for my Christmas song.
Oh, I have Santa's Coming to Town.
Oh, okay. Plus one there.
Christmas treat or drink.
I don't know if this is specifically a Christmas treat. My partner's family makes these only during Christmas, though. Spritz cookies.
I don't even know what that is.
It's just like a type of like almond flavored cookie.
Oh.
It's like a sugar cookie, but with like kind of an almond nutty taste.
Okay. I put sugar cookies.
But they're different.
They're different. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so cool.
I put originally I was going to put sangria because of grandma, or because of Mima.
Yeah,
but,
that's awesome. That's what sangria.
All right, holiday traditions.
I put sleigh rides in a horse carriage.
I put stocking making. Like the...
Do you make stockings?
Like when you don't make them, but you decorate them. Like when you put your name on it and stuff.
I've never actually had a stocking that had my initial on it, except for last year. So I didn't know that. Like, I thought people just bought those at the store.
Yeah, no, you get like those glitter glue and you put your name on it.
That's so cute. I'm gonna have to do that this year.
It's fun. Present ideas.
Stuffed stockings.
Okay. I put skateboard. Find your skateboard under your tree.
I love that. We're doing really well right now.
We are. Words associated with December.
I did singing carols.
Ooh, I put snow.
Okay. That's an obvious one that I feel like I should have gotten.
Next one is name for your elf on a shelf.
I put Sally.
I put Steve.
That's my dad's name.
Hey. I was trying to think of something that rhymed with elf, but I couldn't think of anything. So I was like, Steve.
One of the other names I did put, I crossed it out, but it was the last one. It was Santa's spy.
Oh. The last one is ingredients to put on your gingerbread house. I put sour gummy bears. Like you put like the little, I don't know.
You know what? Wait. This is so silly because it was ingredients, but I didn't read the full prompt. It's ingredients to put on your gingerbread house. Mm-hmm. And I was just crossing out eggnog, cocoa, vanilla, cinnamon.
Yeah, those wouldn't have worked.
No, not at all.
All right.
In general.
I think I won, but I don't know if sour gummy bears are a thing, so we'll say it's a tie.
I would say so because you put candy, you put whatever candy you want for
That's
a gingerbread house. So you technically do one. You won because I didn't even put anything down.
I don't think I've ever won a game on the book stop before.
Really?
I'd have never played. So.
Congratulations!
Yeah, this is what it feels like to win.
Man,
that was fun.
Yeah, wow, this was really nice. I
had a great time.
I liked reading something that was refreshing and that I really craved to read more and I was really excited about. Don't get me wrong, the fact that I was on for A Court of Thorns and Roses, the Song of Achilles, the Circe, and it was like those are really nice, but this was kind of nice to have like something I had absolutely no background on and to form something of my complete own opinion without any background at all. Yeah. I really like that. And liking it, I should say.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Were there anything in your own opinion, your own words, were there anything that you would have done differently, would have changed? It's just purely your own opinions.
Relationships. I wanted to see more of a relationship between Ellie and the family members, more background on the family members instead of them just being kind of surface level, like Lovey and Mima, boozy and high. Like, I want to know more, like, why are they like that, you know? Like, maybe Mima is high because she has anxiety as well.
I think it said that she had arthritis, or she had, like, an injury or something.
Something like that. But that's just it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a very valid reason. I want more. I want more of the dynamic, the family dynamic. Why was there such a high-tension relationship between everyone else and Alan all the time? I understand that he's, he owns the company, a hardball on the family, but, like...
Why?
Why? Yeah, why? Why is it? Why? Just a big why the entire time. I want to see more relationships outside of the family as well. I want to see how, not just talking about, but like I want to see how Ellie's relationship with the housemates grow and a little bit more in depth. You don't have to like really go into multiple pages, but I want to see more. I want to see that time that she took for herself and how she deals with failure if she didn't get the publishing job, if she's like, if maybe she did and she loved it and maybe she has a book coming out finally that she's doing the artistry for. I want to see her create that life. That was, I think, just the biggest opportunity for me is not having more in depth in those relationships.
Yeah, totally. I definitely agree with both of those. My biggest thing, I think, that was a huge missed opportunity in this book was the webcomics. They should have been actual webcomics. I think she should have hired, if she can't draw, whoever did the cover even, hired somebody to draw out these webcomics instead of having a narrative. It would have given such great detail into Ellie as a character, to show her style, to show her emotions in her comics. How did they get... She's saying she's getting thousands and thousands of views on her comics, but we don't get to see her artwork.
I didn't even think of that. That makes absolute sense. That would have been so awesome to have that medium.
It's in a narrative style and it's written just as the same as the book. The only thing is there's a different font. That's it. And I would have just loved to see a comic of it. A couple other things I said is I would have loved to see a little bit more of Ellie's background before she met Andrew. More of her parents, her living situation, really add up those stakes of why she needs this money. Because it's very surface level. Like, yeah, she's getting evicted, but show the bills piling up. Show her struggling for a little while. Show that relationship with Ari and with Greg, her manager. Show more than just a little tidbit.
They also mentioned Jed at the very end of the book, who is Ellie's dad. For someone who hasn't been in contact with their dad in 3 years, like, there's got to be some sort of background with her dad, which is not mentioned whatsoever. So,
exactly.
Like, yeah, I definitely agree. 2
more things. One, I wish there was just a little bit more, again, background of Ellie discovering and understanding that she is a demi-bi person. And I really think that this book would have done better with that representation if it was a slow burn. Give me, like, moments where they have seen each other, but they just couldn't be together. I don't know. I just think a slow burn would have been much better build-up for this story than a one-night stand. My very last thing is I need an Andrew and Dylan story. I would take even a retelling of, like, maybe this explains why Andrew and Ellie were never together, because he was spending all of his time with Dylan. Show that. And then what happened after. I would love an Andrew and Dylan story. I would definitely read it.
I would have appreciated, too, if we had maybe some sort of retelling from Jack's perspective as well, because especially with that complicated family dynamic, I also would have been really interested in that.
Unfortunately, it is time for us to go. It's not very Christmas of us to do that, but we gotta.
I know. Go. You know what? Christmas magic, we should just be staying here inside all day. You want to bring some hot cocoa over here, actually? Cancel your plans. Cancel your Christmas plans right now.
But before we go, we do one last thing. We make our rating scale. It's a little bit different here on the book stop. We make up our own thing. So I would give Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrun 4 drunk and high grandmas out of 5. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book. I could definitely see myself coming back to it. I'm really glad that we were able to talk about it. I'm gonna recommend this to anybody looking for a holiday book. I just really enjoyed it. The cover is so pretty. It just instantly drew me in. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, there's a couple of things we talked about that could have been dealt with more, more characters, more background. But I think that can be said with literally any book. So, but other than that, I really liked this book.
It was enjoyable. It was very nice. It was very cozy. I would do probably a rating of 4.3 butch ovens out of 5.
Heck yeah.
I really liked it. I think the only reason I don't give it 5 is just that the relationships are a little lacking for me. But other than that, again, I'm very passionate about this book, and that's why I have a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
And so the author did really well. I'm probably going to look out for a lot more books written by this author. I think that the style was really clear, concise. Might have hit a lot of tropes, but also had good valid points to the plot.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the book stop. It means everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again, and you'll be back on next Christmas, I'm sure, a little holiday treat. But no spoilers just yet. Keep an eye out on the Book Stop Patreon for a little sneak peek at next year's selections. But yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
See you next December. Have a Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Toodles. Bye, sleigh bells ring. Are you listening?
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.